The Valiantium blade claims another victim, and not a scratch on the tower.
This review is brought to you by Gamefly. Max Scoville here for Rev3 Games, and I'm here today to talk to you about The Wonderful 101, which is of course Platinum Games' first outing with a Wii U exclusive. Is it wonderful? Sorry, I had to. Let's take a look. The world of The Wonderful 101, if there was any confusion at all, is firmly rooted in Saturday morning cartoon fare, falling somewhere between the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and the Thunderbirds, and of course, aliens invade, and the entirety of the game is spent defeating their various evil robots and crabs and so forth. It's a pretty straightforward video game. The heroes of The Wonderful 101 are a team called the Wonderful 100. While the title might suggest 100 different unique superheroes, only a handful are technically costumed crime fighters. However, that handful has the ability to recruit regular civilians into one giant team and then form that team into a variety of weapons. Yes, it is exactly as silly as it sounds. Traditional superheroes are usually concerned with getting people out of harm's way, but the members of the Wonderful 100 have no qualms about turning them into a giant sword or using them as ammunition for a big gun. And that's the game's core mechanic.
Unite sword!
The Wii U gamepad's second screen is primarily used to switch between these giant weapons made out of these poor innocent people, and it's fairly simple. You draw a straight line and hit A and you've got a sword. Make an L shape and you got a gun. Squiggle is a whip, backwards question mark is a hammer, and so forth. It can also be used to direct your team. Recruiting new teammates can be done by having your existing team surround them, which is done by drawing a little loop on the screen. It's easier to get the hang of than to describe, and if you're not a fan of messing with the second screen, the right analog stick can be used to draw all the same shapes. And while that's less precise than the stylus, it doesn't require players to look away from the screen or change hand position on the controller. So, The Wonderful 101 is a Wii U exclusive, but it could theoretically work just fine on other consoles, and it doesn't do a whole lot to hide that fact. Beyond switching weapons and rearranging your team, the gamepad doesn't get used for much, and what it does get used for feels pretty gimmicky. For instance, at certain points in the game, the team will enter a building, and on your main screen, the camera will stay locked on the exterior, and you'll have to redirect your gaze to the second screen, where there's an interior view. It's a cute idea, but unfortunately the camera controls are tied to the gamepad's accelerometer, which is mildly frustrating at best, and at worst, just completely broken. Aside from a few puzzles and platforming sequences, the majority of the game is spent beating up aliens of different shapes and sizes. Controlling 100 characters at once isn't actually as weird as it sounds or it looks. Once you get used to the somewhat wobbly controls, gameplay is just a matter of making strategic use of different weapons. Laser beams can be deflected with a sword, spiked armor can be removed from a distance with a whip, and so forth. There's a trick to beating each type of enemy, and half the fun is figuring out what that trick is. The boss fights take the approach and turn it up to 11, and Platinum Games works their usual magic with insane, over-the-top sequences, culminating in a completely absurd QuickTime event.
Unite crawl!
The Wonderful 101 plays the same way that little kids describe video games that they really want for Christmas. Loudly, excitedly, and sometimes nonsensically. There are portions of the game that are really terrible at explaining themselves, offering vague cues or none at all. And I know we all hate having our hands held, but this is the wrong way to go about it. The Wonderful 101 has a neat aesthetic that mimics tilt-shift photography, much like the most recent SimCity did, and the characters all look rather toy-like, as though they're made of shiny plastic. Throughout the game, there are large gumball-type vending machines that'll dump out new team members in giant gashapon capsules. Scattered throughout the game are new costumes, which will make your superheroes look like sexy nurses and toilets and office supplies, and this adds to the sense of the whole game being about playing with toys. I was really into this cute toy box aesthetic, but the game seemed to forget about it, and it was disappointing to see the levels go from colorful Playmobil-esque cityscapes to generic stainless steel video game spaceship hallways, and the enemies transform from fun and colorful and cute to just generic, scary reptilian, robotic video game monster fare. The whole isometric tilt-shift photography aesthetic in a game is a great idea, but for it to work, the game needs to accommodate for a funky depth of field, either with a reliable camera or intuitive level design, and unfortunately, The Wonderful 101 does neither, and there were quite a few sections that had me swearing at my TV after numerous deaths by optical illusion. Wonderful 101 has 3 difficulty modes, and there's a solid challenge there. Don't be surprised at all if you get your ass handed to you by the middle mode. It's score-based, and there's a report card at the end of each sequence, grading players on a scale of consolation prize to pure platinum, so it's definitely built for replayability. The last title by Platinum Games I reviewed was Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and one of my chief complaints was how the game felt short, not just in terms of playtime, but in terms of how much content was there. The exact opposite holds true in the case of The Wonderful 101. There's a good amount of content in this game, but it's spread way too thin. My playtime clocked in somewhere around 16 hours, and someone who's not playing on a deadline should have no problem squeezing 20 hours of the campaign. This would be great if it was consistently fun, because The Wonderful 101 is by no means a bad game, but one of its biggest faults is how much it wears out its welcome by throwing the same enemies at you, dragging out boss fights, and adding completely uninspired on-rails vehicular sections and turret sequences. In addition to its rather surprising length, The Wonderful 101 also has a fairly in-depth story, to the point that it's almost overkill given how silly and cartoonish the subject matter is. When they're engaging in goofy banter, the characters are quite enjoyable, but from time to time the game gets annoyingly melodramatic and long-winded. However, the localization is excellent, both in terms of writing and voice acting, so even when it's stupid, at least it doesn't sound stupid.
And?
In addition to the story mode, there are also a set of wonderful missions, consisting of fighting a pile of enemies in a big room, which can be played cooperatively with up to 5 players. It doesn't really bring anything new to the table, but if you've got a couple friends over and some extra Pro or Classic controllers lying around, it's there. The Wonderful 101 isn't a bad game by any means, and plenty of people will have a great time with it, especially fans of Platinum's other games. But it feels like a real missed opportunity that a Wii U exclusive that could have gotten really creative and bizarre with the gamepad instead just settled to stay in familiar beat-em-up territory. The Wonderful 101 is a 3 out of 5. Gaming is an expensive hobby, and if you drop $60 on every single game that catches your fancy, you will be broke very fast. Thankfully, there is an alternative: GameFly. GameFly is the largest online game rental service, offering over 7,000 titles across a wide variety of consoles and handhelds, both new and old. Whether you're curious about a new game like The Wonderful 101, or you want to go revisit some of Platinum's older titles like Mad World or Bayonetta, GameFly has you covered. With membership starting at just $15.95 a month, GameFly will let you rent up to 4 games at a time with no late fees or due dates and totally free shipping. If you fall in love with a game you're playing, just head to the GameFly website and click Keep It, and it's yours for a discounted price, and GameFly will even send you the case and manuals free of charge. In addition to consoles and handhelds, GameFly also offers an unlimited PC play plan, which is exactly what it sounds like. For a 2-week free trial, go to gamefly.com/rev3games. It is a great way to support our channel, and it's a great deal. Again, gamefly.com/rev3games. So, that was my review. Verdict being, for me, not that wonderful. Could have been a lot better. It's really a pity to see a studio like Platinum, which clearly backs the Wii U wholeheartedly, not really taking full advantage of it, and I don't know, just kind of a disappointment. However, I'm sure you guys have your own opinions, and you are more than welcome to let me know how you feel in the comments. Please don't make fun of my hair. I'm Max Scoville. Take it easy.